This is a Candid Candace exclusive. Hey everybody, my name is Candace and you are watching the Candid Candace show. If you're new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe. Okay, so let's get right into it, you guys. I have an exclusive interview to share with you guys that I conducted with the phenomenal actor Terrence Howard. I was recently contacted by Terrence Howard's team, and you guys, it is truly my honor and my pleasure to have him on the show. Terrence and I had a very candid conversation discussing a lot of the things that he has going on in his life, specifically his scientific and humanitarian plans. Some of these plans he did discuss on the red carpet at the 2019 Emmys, but the people who interviewed him, they pretty much made a mockery of him, laughing at him about his ideas, pretty much making him look crazy. Well, I personally do not think that Terrence Howard is crazy, and I'm very happy to have him on the show and allow you all to really listen to him. When people are talking about things that you don't understand, you shouldn't laugh at them. You should listen to them and then ask them questions, and that's exactly what I did. And you guys, Terrence Howard is a very, very smart man. This book that he has and his new geometry that he's teaching and the technology that he is discovering, you guys, it's phenomenal. But I don't want to say any more. I just want you guys to watch the interview and allow Terrence Howard to speak for himself and show that he is not crazy. He's creative. Enjoy the show. This is a Candid Candace exclusive. But you said thank you to me, but I wanted to say thank you to you. Like, I really want to thank you just for being a part of my show, because I mean, I was honored. I'm like, you want to be on my show? I just tell my opinion and, you know, converse with my viewers. So for you to want to be a part of it, I'm just grateful. So I want to say thanks.
No, you should. You know, anytime somebody speaks out the way you did, they should be applauded for it. And since you raised the question or was defending the sanity within this argument that I have, since you were holding a lot of that court, then I'm like, let's utilize the platform and discuss
and talk about it. Okay.
So you go ahead. This is under your tutelage now.
Okay. I mean, so let's just jump right into the statements that you made on that red carpet. That was the Emmys, right? So
yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to read everything you said, just the specific points that I wanted to. So you said, I made some discoveries in my own personal life with the science that Pythagoras were searching for. I was able to open up the flower of life properly and find the real wave conjugations that we've been looking for 10,000 years. And then you went forward to say that, you know, your plans, which is that you're going to prove that gravity is an effect and not a force. And you will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity. Now, like you saw from my video, the people who interviewed you, they laughed. I mean, a lot of other, yeah, I mean, they laughed. I mean, and like you saw from my video, I was offended for you without even knowing what you were talking about. It was just pure disrespect, as if your thoughts weren't valid.
I've made some discoveries in my own personal life with the science that, you know, Pythagoras was searching for. I was able to open up the flower of life properly and find the real wave conjugations that we've been looking for 10,000 years.
I didn't do too well in trigonometry. What is the
platonic solids?
Wow.
But wait,
conjugating going on?
You thought that was it. It isn't. There's more.
No.
I'm going to be able to prove that gravity is only an effect and not a force. I'm putting something on YouTube where I will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity.
Right. Aren't you getting a star?
He's rebuilding the universe.
You're going, well, you're getting a star.
So again, I think that will be an even more widely attended and cover. He gets a star Tuesday on the Hollywood Walk.
We got to be there.
We really.
But he's rebuilding Saturn at that
without
last
gravity.
And no platonic solids.
Yeah.
I don't want to go viral.
Right. That is you. Like the whole world is trying to go viral, and you don't want to go viral. That's good.
Please.
Good for you. You're being true to yourself.
So I guess my first question, before you even explain anything about science, how did that make you feel to watch that back and see them make a mockery of you, not what you're saying. They made a mockery of you.
Well, the funny thing is, as David would attest to, when we started this entire process, setting all this in motion, writing the book, building the technologies, we understood that it would come in certain phases, and that someone would have to put their head out for a minute, and it would look like it's about to be ran over by a semi, and then backed up over it again. And we knew ahead of time that it wasn't going to be met with roses and and well wishes.
Right.
So that's all been part of an interesting dance. I could say it hurt, but what hurt was, wow, it's going to take a lot sometimes for a generation to recognize how far off it is from its salvation, but also how close it is to its own reckoning, by our inability to find balance with everything else that's in balance in the universe. Our tone will be snuffed out. So I listened to it more so from a saddened place, but also knowing that was supposed to occur and would have to occur. Here I'm questioning everything. I said I can take a physics simulation. That's what I basically meant.
I'm sharing that on Tuesday when I receive my star. I'm going to be able to prove that gravity is only an effect and not a force. I'm putting something on YouTube where I will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity.
I can take a physics simulation. That's what I basically meant. Some of the work that Chris Seeley has done, taking a physics simulation, the same physics program that they use at MIT, that they use at Princeton, at CERN. The same. It's a very high tech program, and he was able to build the planet Saturn, or all of the effects of the planet Saturn, by just using a number of vortices and showing them in relation to each other. And it also, I don't know if you've seen the video.
I did a few times. I had to watch it a few times to completely understand. And using the example of tornadoes being vortices, like for me, I needed that. I need layman's terms.
A whirlpool.
Was it a whirlpool? I thought it was a tornado.
A tornado is a whirlpool.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just look further down, but most of the times we don't get to see whirlpools, from a y-axis of it, looking at it standing up vertically.
Right.
You see the whirlpools, going down the tub when the water's going out.
Yeah, but I mean, that simple word, vortices or vortex, like they laugh, like, ha, vortices. But then when you say tornado, they're like, oh, okay, a tornado. So sometimes I just feel like if you're using a word that perhaps we're not using all the time, or we don't hear a lot, or just a word we don't know, that's where the laughs come in. But it seems that it's perhaps them being uncomfortable with not knowing. That's just my opinion.
No, I like the opinion. It's let them be uncomfortable for a time. I mean, when people are uncomfortable, they listen. They listen. Now, I would have thought, because I know I use vortices so many times inside the book too, because I'm always talking about these vortices. But it has so much. I guess it does tell the same power and story that's within the tornado and that constant spin, but everything in the universe is reduced down to those two things, whether something is spinning to the right or spinning to the left.
Okay.
If it's spinning northeasterly, then what it's becoming is electric, because it's seeking a higher pressure condition. Picture a rock, falling, a 1,000,000-ton rock falling into a crevice, a hole in the bottom of the ocean, and how that rock would move with urgency towards the center of the earth. Well, that's what electricity is doing. It's moving, seeking a higher pressure condition. The deeper that rock goes, the greater the surrounding pressure, and that increases the electrical conductivity because things are closer to each other. When things are further away, you know, you can get a spark across, but it's a lot different when they're touching each other like this. And especially if you can get them to overlap each other. Look at how much more conductivity you have taking place. And that's what electricity is doing, spinning northeast. And whereas magnetism, so that they both can fit together, magnetism says, since you're going to spin northeast and seek a higher pressure condition, what I'm going to do, since we're equal and opposite mates, I'm going to spin southwest. And as a result of spinning southwest, it's become centrifugal, where you have one that's centripetal, seeking a higher pressure zone, and the other one is centrifugal, expanding outwardly, radiating, magnifying, rarefying that which was once this tightly held together. And that's the dance between all things in existence. It's at some balance between its electric contraction and its magnetic dispersion.
Okay, so since you're talking about, you know, magnetic, so what does the idea that we've all been taught, opposites attract, would that be accurate then? Because that seems different.
Well, let's look at it. You show me two opposites. Let's look at air, or hot water, cold water. If you have cold water coming down and you have hot water coming up, what happens to them? Do they just mix together happily, or do they do everything they can to avoid each other? Opposites don't attract in nature. Opposites repel each other. That's what nature does. It's the positive things. It's two people that are alike. It's their positive electric charge that brings them together. Like, wow, you're like me, I'm like you. Ooh, look at how we get along. Yeah. It's when they become opposites that their relationship, you know, we no longer see the same way. So I believe that we have been force-fed and deliberately misunderstanding and misconception of how nature views the very words we use.
What is the reason for misinforming us?
Well, the same way you give a child a certain amount of control while they're growing, you know, we'll tell them how to open up the door in case of an emergency, but we don't tell them where all the keys are, you know, because he might abuse those things because he doesn't know that if he opens up a particular door, there may be something dangerous behind it. So I think that humanity has been given a certain amount of leash so that we can have some run in the yard, but that leash is attached to a chain, and that chain has been ingrained inside of us to where we don't even question. No one questioned how the platonic solids. I wish we could pull up that so we can get past the conversation, because right now it's still in this debatable place. Well, could it be right or could it be wrong? Let's get to some real stuff.
Can we start with the flower of life? Because I know that's one of the main.
I love that.
I would love to start with that, because I mean, I've already done my own research, but just for you to tell me, because I mean, that was one of the main, you know, things that you said. You said you were able to open up the flower of life properly.
Yeah, so let's walk through that. And the good thing about the flower of life is, remember, the flower of life it's one of the oldest symbols known to humanity, and on every continent that it occurs. And it occurs on every single continent. It's always called the flower of life, even in that language. So the platonic solids are descendants from this flower of life. It's them attempting to open it. Now, one of the things that I notice with nature and Walter Russell spoke about constantly, was all energy in the universe is expressed in motion, all motion in waves, and all waves are curved. So where did the straight lines come from to make the platonic solids, the tetrahedron?
Okay.
They just made straight lines through curved spaces where the circles were intersecting. But it makes sense. This made sense to someone thinking that the world was flat. Here again, no straight lines, but that they draw straight lines through.
Okay.
You see that you see what I'm saying now?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah.
This is the linear perspective of the universe, the linear perspective. And for the last 6,000 years, all our math and science has been built upon this. And therefore, the Pythagorean theorem, all of these things, all of the field equations that they have to explain the largest thing, even gravity, all of those things were based upon how these things move. So let's go to DJ, take them to, yeah, that's much better. Now, we decided to approach it from a different perspective.
Okay.
It was like, let's cut the individual pieces out and put them together according to universal ratio. So as you come down onto this, you'll see what happens when four bubbles meet. Mm-hmm. And this is the space that's left over between them. This is the space where the four bubbles do not touch. This is the negative space that controls them. Is that making sense to you?
A little bit. I'm seeing it's literally the in-between spaces.
It's the in-between spaces. If you were to take literally four balls together, you know, or picture four balls in your hand, four marbles in your hand, and if you squeeze them as hard as you can and get them to where they couldn't move,
okay,
there would still be a certain amount of space that's left over where they cannot touch.
Okay.
That's that negative space right there. Now this is what happens when four bubbles meet. Okay. Now remember, they had the square. Now let's go to where 8 bubbles meet. And we can scroll over the top of it. Now this right here, by all of the literature and by how it behaves, they would normally call this something to do with being the proton or the center, the drawer, the center attractor. Go back to the one that had 4, DJ. Thank you. This having 4, what this shows here is that there are 8 poles to the smallest dynamic, because each pole has a point on it or it has a concavity to it. The ones with the point is spinning out, it's expanding. That one is actually spinning its way out. So those become magnetic because they expand their way out. But the ones that are concaved, that space right there, that's the job of electricity. It's always tightening things. So we see even from the smallest piece, this is the highest pressure condition, that there are at least 8 poles. You have 4 electric poles, and you have 4 magnetic poles. There's at least 8 poles that's interacting, whereas before we were taught that there was only a North Pole and a South Pole. So now you see how these things could change technology, because now we can draw more poles off of it. So now once you go to when you put 6 of these things together, the green, and you watch how now you have 8 poles, 16 poles, and another 8 poles of interaction of something that they would normally call a photon, how it behaves.
Okay.
Now remember, the last thing that had 6 sides to it was a cube. Now you can imagine the things you can build with a cube. You know, you can make a whole lot of, most of our world is built off of cubes. Can you imagine what could be built upon these?
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to picture a house being this shape. That's what I'm picturing.
I have to tell this story with it. Now we'll go to when 12 bubbles meet. Now, what's interesting with the flower of life, it's also been called the tree of life. And we all know the story about the tree of life, that mankind, that the Adam and Eve was blocked from getting to the tree of life so that they couldn't eat from its fruit and live to time indefinite.
Okay.
I'm saying that the tree of life has now been opened again to mankind in these wave conjugations that come from the flower of life, because these are the true fruits in comparison to the dodecahedron that was drawn across. Now you can go to when 24 bubbles meet. And each one of these is just a different pressure condition. This pressure condition hasn't even been discovered yet.
This is with how many?
This is when 24 bubbles meet.
Okay.
This is the negative space where they contain themselves. This is their constitution. This is their province, the laws that cover whatever that small municipality is, No drinking after such and such. The bar must close at this hour, But this is a negative space of negative space. And I can show you, some of these things that I have here. And let me turn this around.
Okay.
To give you a better idea.
Did you actually sculpt that?
These are things that were made for me. I had to get 3Ds. These are the ones that I built.
Oh, wow. Wait, can you pick it up? Yeah.
I don't know, can you see it?
Get it a little bit closer. I think you're kind of out of the frame.
I'm trying to.
Yep, there we go.
Remember, it's a delay on this.
Oh, yeah.
But this is what happens when 6 bubbles meet. A whole new geometry occurs.
So
and then,
sorry, it's a little bit of delay.
I know, I gotta go. I want to get back to just me again.
Yeah.
So, everything comes down to 2 separate sides. There's the magnetic side,
okay,
where 4 bubbles meet, which is the first thing that I discovered, which is an all shape. Because I wanted to figure out how many numbers. Like they said, 3 was the magic number.
Mm-hmm.
So what really was it? The Holy Trinity, a lot of things, good things comes in 3s. We hear all these different stories about 3s. But there was nothing sustainable about 3. It turned out in order to see height, width, and depth as far as perception, you need 4 dimensions. You need your height, your width, and your depth, but you also need your 4th perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be equal and opposite to all the other sides to it. And that pressure condition looks just like hydrogen.
Can you turn it a little? Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now this is expanding. This has, if you were to drop this in any kind of fluid, these fins on it would make it fall slower. Even though it has a lot of positive charge in these collective areas. But now imagine it this way, without the fins, and which one do you think will move quicker if it was dropped?
The one without?
The one without, that would be the one with the greatest electrical potential. Because it doesn't have these magnetic things that's pushing and expanding off of it. And the entire universe ends up being built as a result of these things. Maybe I went too close.
Yeah, that's good.
These things turning into now these. Now it'll be a lot better if I allow DJ to show you these things on how through the computer, because trying to translate it from here is a little different. But I wanted you to understand. These things, this is real geometry. These have been built by me. This is when 6 of them come together and make a natural turbine. So there's an entirely new geometry or technology that could be opened up as a result of seeing things from a slightly different perspective.
So what kind of things? Like, if you have any like specific things? I mean, I know you mentioned, Saturn, but just worldly things. Like I mentioned a house. Like I don't know why that was the first thing that popped in my mind was, what if there was a house that was shaped that way?
Well, let's instead of jumping directly to a house, let's go to what would power a house.
Okay.
TJ, Chris, will you do our plans for Haiti? What we were thinking about doing for the deforested area inside of Haiti? Yeah, please bring that out.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know a lot of the questions that people have, like, okay, Terrence has all of these ideas, but what are you doing with them? The one that you mentioned so far was Saturn, so I was just.
Yeah, well, let's show you something. Yeah, go straight to the video. Just go straight to the video. This is Haiti. This is giving you let's walk through it. Let's walk through it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There is a delay here. There is a delay. Okay. So this is Haiti.
Okay.
Can you imagine the amount of trash that's left from? This is all as a result of what took place at that terrible earthquake. They have not recovered. This is Haiti today. Let's go to the next picture. Now, what we envision is being able to take. Well, you went so quick.
Sorry. I did. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It is a long delay. So here we have the potential peace that Haiti could have, but to the right of, to my right, is a book that describes a tall history of sugar, a tale of history. Go to the next page. Let's see how long it takes to hear that. So this is the desperation that the people are living in. So now these are the hurricanes that chase this island. Now, as a result of the Haitians being one of the very first islands to turn on their masters, and so they immediately was left out of any economic growth deliberately. The Dominican Republic, which sits, the green area, the Haitians have deforested all of their land. They have to in order to build a house, in order to find food. They've deforested most of their land, so they have no natural resources left that they can grab from. But this is what we hope to do now, since all of that area is free for the sun. Now, this was what could be. Let's go back, DJ. Yeah, that picture there. You got it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is what's taking place in the Dominican, and this is what Haiti looks like. So the economic potential for Haiti. Now let's go to the next one, DJ. So with utilizing the technology that we've uncovered, instead of having a solar panel that works as a solar panel, it's just flattened. Instead of having something working on wind, instead of having something working on piezoelectric or vibratory harmonics, this is what we will build, which will power more than 3 homes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Just let it play. That's a light unit. But all of the focus light, the energy is all being pushed to a center area that's going to also be affected by the multiple vortices that this thing, as I talked about earlier. And each change in pressure creates another kick in energy. And imagine this. Now let's go to the fields.
And that's pulling. I'm sorry, it's pulling the energy from the sun.
It's pulling solar. It's doing wind. It's doing piezoelectric. Piezoelectric is when you take like a quartz crystal. You wonder why the pyramids were made of of a quartz-like material, granite. It's because quartz, when you push on it, when you put pressure on quartz, it returns that force back in an electrical charge. So you use piezoelectric just by having anything that changes the pressure on a quartz, you will get another electrical charge off of it. And then you also are able to get vibratory charges from its particular positioning. So play the video of having fields of the light units. This is on a building, but within a few years, Haiti would probably provide most of the electricity that is used in the Dominican Republic. And imagine the trade between them, technicians learning how to take these things to build these there. And these also will ultimately power something that could actually change the world itself.
Yeah.
But these are little steps. These are little steps.
That's a big step. I wouldn't call that little. That's not little.
Well, we can put that in. We'll put that in individual backyards, on rooftops, and everyone can have their energy for free.
Well, Terrence, I know why they're laughing at you. They don't want this done.
Of course not. Of course not. But continue. I think we have more with it. No, we don't. We can't do this one yet. This one is.
Okay.
Ultimately, we can. The air can become purified. It can take the energy from. We can. This is an energy amplifier in its own right, and it's all based upon, these simple standing waves. Just standing waves.
Wow.
And how the universe behaves, how it loves the standing wave and how it expresses itself. And no matter what, it's going to keep coming down to this one little piece right here. Now, can we take her to, since this is the all shape, and if I was to take 8 of these and put them together, they would look like this. And then I would stack them, and they would look like this. I don't know if you can see that. Can you take her to that, DJ? When the light column. Now, this is something that I built years ago.
Wow, Terrence, this is amazing.
This is fun. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, the light column.
Thank you. I'm just blown away.
Wow.
I get it here.
Yeah, is it there?
Yeah.
So this is what's in my house. What I just showed you. Yeah. What I just showed you, this is a real thing. This is what happens when when eight all shapes come together and they stack upon each other. They begin predicting the entire wave field. Now, all of that potential, the purpose of that is all of that potential can be tapped now.
Okay.
Every place where you see a light going off, that's a vortice. There's a small tornado happening there. So you can tap onto that energy for free. That's what this is. This predicts all distribution of matter. So now let's take her to the to the piece that DJ's work, DJ and Chris's work. Yeah, let's go to the actual. The one that I wanted coming out of the ground. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right there. But that also not. Yeah, there it is. So that is this right here.
Okay.
This is it in.
The model.
And then this is it if we put it in virtual, and it's spinning.
CGI?
that right there is CGI. What I showed you before was something built.
Yeah. It's interactive.
But this is interactive. Gives you. Yeah. Can you do it from the top perspective?
Yeah.
Oh.
So now you see why it's called the fruit from the flower, because that's all you see is the flower, and that's. So if those were used as lenses, can you imagine how much they would heat up and take one solar lens? It's ridiculous. It's just not even fair anymore.
Wow.
So this right here, now let's take her and show her the combination of that with predicting the DNA.
Okay.
Predicting the DNA.
The DNA of our bodies, the way our bodies are put together. There we go. Yeah, it's made up, before you started, it's made up of five tones.
Okay.
5 tones. Phosphorus, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen. Now, each one of these things are aligned next to another one as a way of passing on a tone, like keys on the piano. And when you watch them build themselves, you can let it play now. They naturally build themselves around this structure you were just looking at.
Okay.
This is the hydrogen, the nitrogen, the carbon, the phosphorus, and the oxygen bonding and communicating across our DNA, following these same shapes, which happens to just fit inside of the rift, that makes up our entire galaxy, the wall of our galaxy, that great rift. Everything is some smaller creature of some much larger being. Our entire galaxy is just a DNA, just one DNA strand of a much larger being. So for us to even be having this conversation within the lifespan of something like that, is remarkable. But to talk about truth, to participate in a new paradigm, thank you. Thank you for but this is real. Now, this we did with animation in building Saturn. There was no animation there. That was just what occurred.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you do that intentionally, or?
No. Chris, tell her how it happened. I called you and was like, throw some of these things into different positions and see what they create. I thought he would come back to me a month from then, and show me something simple. I had no idea 3 hours later he was going to have that video.
And it looked like Saturn.
I just was like, wait a minute. That's why I had to talk to Mira. I was like, Mira, you need to hear this. You got to hear what they're.
Yeah, it was quite profound. Like I was simply following the geometry the way Terrence was teaching me, the same way he was walking you through it. Right? He'd walked me through it for a couple of months, banging into my head, so I just ended up lining up the vortexes, right? The tornadoes following what Terrence refers to as the Lynchpin configuration, which is just 4 pointed towards a common center point. And then doubled it, and then I rotated it 120 degrees, and follow up. Just let the geometry lead the way, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that I put in like some particle systems and stuff, and then I just hit play. Essentially, I just angled them following the right angles of Terrence's Lynchpin, and then I hit play, and then it just morphed right in front of my eyes. I was like, I don't believe what I'm seeing. Right. Even the hexagon on the top of Saturn was. Yeah,
that's the stuff that blew my mind. Literally, this had all occurred 3 days before the Emmys. So
that's why you were excited.
So freaking excited. I was like, and then he did it with just 2 linchpins and the Milky Way galaxy, and I was like, okay. All right. Well, this is now becoming really fun. So we should show them a linchpin now.
Yeah, and can you explain to me
Yes.
what it is? Because when I watched the video, I mean, me and my husband, like, we were fascinated, but like confused at the same time.
Right.
And I know linchpin is a term, that's your term. That's your actual term that you came up with, linchpin.
Yeah, I call it a linchpin because it's the constitution that holds everything together. But you see this all shape I have right here.
Yes.
Well, it is the backbone of the linchpin. Go to the single linchpin one that we have on the book. Maybe it'll be easier if you go to that, the one that's in the book. You just pass the all shape.
And the book being interactive is certainly helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fun part. All of this stuff. We're about to take you through an interactive walkthrough here. So here's the linchpins there, but go up to where we're this is the fun part.
Yeah. Giordano Bruno, by the way.
Bruno's right there. That's who we were making reference to earlier. But I'm sure you'll be able to clip this all together. Back to the flower of life. There we go.
Yeah.
There you see. There's the linchpin right there to my left.
Okay.
Now,
got it.
What you're looking at is basically the bone structure. That's the very skeletal structure of that overall of the all shape. It's the same structure, but this is the scaffolding of it. So now we see how the all shapes, behave in nature. And I'm using the wrong term. The all shapes they really express every aspect of the universe as a whole. When you're describing magnetic fields, and where the unshapes, I call them, the electric parts describe the electric field. And these two together end up telling the entire story. So, but the center of each one of these all shapes, like it's 8 that made up this one, is the linchpin. So show her the linchpin now while I'm holding this one this way. And you can see the 3 points on it, but then just go to the linchpin in motion right there.
Which one? Can you put the cursor on which one you mean?
Yeah, this one right here. That's the linchpin right there.
Because I have it pulled up here on my tablet too.
Yeah, pull it up. Now you'll see here 4 of the linchpins coming together. Isn't that a daisy? Isn't that a crystal? And what's interesting is 4 of these coming together will bond with another set of 4s that will bond and make a much larger structure, and they'll keep making a larger structure, but they'll still have that. So now let's show what happens when 5 of them bond. This is what I'm saying is a common factor of all things in the universe. This is 5 linchpins coming together, which is basically all shapes. It will be, and now one of the things they've always said is that a crystal can't be predicted how a crystal shall grow. But this seems to pretty much tell the tale of crystalline formation. And everything that we see and experience is a crystalline formation.
But is it random?
There's no randomness to it because everything is going to keep coming back to this all shape. That's still the same shape as, come back to this now, DJ.
Yep.
If you can see me, that's still this same all shape.
Still that same shape. Okay.
That's the recursive thing that the universe keeps coming back to. As this, they call it, what's that favorite term? The Y delta Y. And why it's so important. But those are the things that make it all predictable. And as a result of it, there's so much more technology that we can now access that wasn't available before when we thought the world was flat.
But I mean, we've been away from that idea for a while, but correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is, although most people have agreed that the earth is not flat, the ideas that you're saying right now haven't been acknowledged, at least not out in the open.
I mean, well, put it this way. Imagine a couple of sailors, riding in one of the in a helicopter and saying, I hear the world is round. Mm-hmm. Or I hear the world. No, that's not the right illustration. I'm trying to picture something in a modern state. You're still using it's almost as if somebody from our day today was still sitting and using a rotary phone. If you remember the rotary phones from the 50s. If somebody today was trying to run their entire business, the entire world, on rotary phones, when this technology is available right here for us to do this, or they were doing telegraphs still, when we have this technology available, what the door that this new understanding opens, and it absolutely frees humanity from this two-dimensional grasp that's held us for the last 6,000 years, if we want it.
That was actually going to be my next question. You talked about two-dimensional mathematics in a three-dimensional world.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? I think I got lost on that as well.
What we just talked about before, when in our math, you remember X and you remember Y, right? Sometimes you remember Z. Sometimes you remember Z. But based on the two-dimensional perspective that they built the world, or the math that describes the world, moves forever directly in front of you and forever behind, and forever to the right and to the left. Mm-hmm. It's a flat plane. It has no height. It has no width. It's a flat plane. Now show me one place in nature where only two dimensions exist. Again, in order for us to see anything, it has to have at least three recognizable dimensions. It has to have height, width, and depth.
Okay.
And our own perspective, which brings it to 4. So how in the world can two-dimensional perspectives tell of multi-dimensional reactions and realities? It's like trying to draw me with stick figures. Yeah, you can get some depiction of me, but is it going to be the best understanding of drawing my face with stick figures? And now we have so many more tools in which to understand and describe nature and grow as a people, as a part of this universe. I think we're being shared. This knowledge is being shared because maybe this is a ripe time in which people are open to something new.
Yeah.
Something transformational.
So let me ask you this. I mean, we've already acknowledged that, some people are laughing or, especially after hearing what you're going to do at Haiti, there's a lot of...
That's what we hope to do.
That's what you hope to do. But, just those ideas alone, I can imagine, corporate, businesses and power companies, they're not going to want that.
Of course they don't want it, but otherwise the earth is going to wipe us out if we don't make a change.
Yeah.
If we don't do something quickly, I would rather have to take on the full wrath of the corporations and their anger. That's why we didn't charge anything for the book, because the truth is free. And this is more of a shout out. Hey, look out, something's coming. But hey, there's also some help that's coming along the way.
Yeah.
I'm not a Bible thumper, but I've learned some valuable lessons from that book. The idea that the children of Adam stood there for 1,637 years, according to the scriptural chronology, from the time of Adam's creation until the flood came, and that flood changing the world, the basis of the world. But it's thought that the children of Adam used to run and hide and look to see past those two angels that with the flaming sword spinning, and trying to get glimpses of the tree of life, just glimpses at its fruit. And so many of the great men, the men that we hold in great honor today, like Da Vinci and Newton, who had to practice this art of opening the flower of life in the privacy of his home late at night, for fear that if it ever got out, this was alchemy. This was heresy, high heresy. And now you guys get to see it. Everybody in the world gets to see that which was held sacred and quiet for so long. There's a reason behind it, especially happening at a time now where people are questioning everything.
Oh yeah.
I've questioned for the last 10 years, why has it been that for 6,000 years we've worshipped only this male deity, as if a man can produce a child and can produce a son by himself without an equal and opposite female. So what happened to the feminine deity? What the equal and opposite, since everything in the universe and my studies, what I've come to realize is everything has an equal and opposite mate. Even on our periodic table, if you look at carbon being that perfect balance between helium or neon, it has 4 steps it goes through, 3 steps it goes through before it gets to that perfect balance. It has a +1 on the helium side, and that's immediately balanced by a -1 on the neon side. And so that -1 is fluorine, and the +1 is lithium. And lithium and fluorine balance each other out. The +2, the next step up, is beryllium. Well, its equal and opposite mate is a -2, which is oxygen. If you are in a room and you need to breathe and some beryllium comes in the room, grab as much air as you can, because the beryllium is not going to let it go. You will suffocate in the room with beryllium because it wants the oxygen. That's its natural mate. That's its baby. It's taking it. The same way, the next step up, a +3, is boron, and its equal and opposite mate is a -3, which is nitrogen. Nitrogen and boron, we use boric acid to kill roaches. So we know that we stay away, but that's the natural balance between nitrogen, and it ends up being perfectly balanced, those two forces squeezing on each other at carbon. And that's why carbon is the same exact color as hydrogen, because hydrogen is just carbon under a higher pressure condition. Then the next pressure condition, the hydrogen becomes carbon, and then it becomes silicon, the same color yellow. And it all has +1, +2, and +3s. What I'm saying, everything like as above, so below. So if everything within this physical universe has an equal and opposite mate, then on a spiritual place, it would have an equal and opposite mate. So now I understand the possibility of why there's so much feminine anger taking place now. Look at that deity that's been vilified for 6,000 years. You know, the first plane was placed on the woman. So I think this is a time in which a lot of understanding is going to be revealed. And that's the frightening part. Because no, this doesn't just question the standards that we've learned our math and science. It's over for them. This is their foundation. Their foundation was the flower of life, flat.
Okay.
They never thought someone would turn it into three-dimensional and prove them wrong. So that's a wrap on them, regardless. That's why I've said I'm down to debate with anybody. You know, they'll have equations, and I'll be like, no, let me show you what it looks like.
Yeah, I took a look at your Oxford University interview or presentation that you did, and I noticed there was some pushback, you know, during that a little bit, but it seems that you're used to it, though.
It's like I said in the beginning, it's not a fair fight. I feel sorry for them.
Well, I mean,
because
you're so confident with the math.
Proof. No, it's just I'm confident in following the geometry. It's like the rest of them are walking, and they have to be on the same mountain because we're having this conversation. But maybe their eyes are closed. Maybe they're not allowing themselves to see the connections, or they don't want to see the connections because there's a lot of other things attached to those connections, you know, and to question all of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned spirituality. You can answer this or not, but it does make me wonder, what are your spiritual beliefs or religion? Do you subscribe to any religion? And you're talking about a lot of science. And I know when I did my video, everybody typed Scientology. He's into Scientology. And I just want to know, what are your thoughts on that?
What I've come to discover, everything inside the universe is made from the first thing in the universe.
Okay.
From the beginning. We normally call the beginning, some call the beginning the creators. We are all collectively, actively participating in this act of creation. I believe that collectively we all make the true God, the true being. All things, not just me, but even the plastic, the polyethylene that this has turned into, it's still vibrating at the key of E. And that means it's breathing in and it's breathing out. Positively charging, breathing in, negatively discharging, breathing out. Spinning northeast, breathing in, spinning southwest centrifugally, breathing out. It's still alive, and that means everything is alive. There is no dead. Everything is participating in this thing called creation. We are all sacred. And once we recognize that all things are sacred, then maybe we will vibrate at a slightly higher rate, because we'll see the peace of God in ourselves, and everyone else will see it and act accordingly.
Because I did notice in your book, in the you mentioned, you know, the creator, and we're all one in a sense. And I don't want to misquote. I wish I had it up. You said, once you know one thing about, what did you say?
One thing. If you know one thing about one thing, then you know one thing about all things.
Yeah.
Find the common factors and either multiply or divide.
And that's your quote?
Yeah.
That was very profound. I was like, okay, I know everything, basically. That's what I took from it.
You do. If you know,
I know everything. Let me tell my husband real quick, baby, I know everything. Does your wife get away with that?
And that's another thing. There's another thing that happens that a lot of us don't realize with women. At the point of 3 months of gestation, when a woman's body recognizes that this is a little girl, it floods it with estrogen. Now, that womb being flooded with estrogen, it causes the connections between the right and left hemisphere of that little girl's mind to expand. A child, a little girl, a woman at all times has more connective use of her entire brain than a man at any given time in his life, because that's what estrogen does. It allows you to see so many different perspectives, and therefore a woman will learn how to, little girl learn how to talk faster, learn how to walk, learn how to communicate. But then it also makes you so aware of all the consequences that could happen. And so now you need a gang of counselors to talk things through. You got to call Shirley, got to call Pat. Kelly said this. All right. Then you'll come up with a solution, and then you'll question it again. Just looking for, this is what I've noticed in the women in my life. But now when the woman's body recognizes it's a little boy and floods it with testosterone, it causes this little area inside the brain. I like to call it the locus ceruleus. They say that they haven't drawn the natural connection to it yet, but it's a thing that have these tentacles that's coming out of in the brain. And it causes a man to have this myopic view. And so if he thinks one thing, he's going to run right at it. He just see A to Z, and it's just A to B. And he has the confidence, the testosterone pushes that and pushes that within him. You got to remember, an average man produces 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. Each one of them is produced with some amount of testosterone. So that gives him this extra thought of, I've got to push through from A to B. So naturally, in a loving, perfect relationship, the woman will think out the possible ways. She can sniff out what could work, like in Cookie and Lucius. She's able to sniff out what will work, and Lucius has the heart to just execute. And that's how the balance between the male and female, I think, works. That's what nature has shown me. That's what the geometry has shown me. So I'm looking for that within the heavens. Okay, where's the equal and opposite? Where's the mama at?
That was the first time you said "I think" during this conversation.
I do make that mistake sometimes.
But that's very interesting because most people have been saying Terrence Howard's theories, or he feels this, he thinks that. You've been very confident saying this is what it is.
Well, I have the geometry. I have the geometry. Their math, it doesn't predict the distribution of matter. What I'm about to do in a couple of months it's a wrap. In a couple of months, it's all predictability will be seen. It's something bigger than walking on water. I'm gonna say that just in common conversation.
I want to know what it is.
It's too big to know what it is right now, but there's everything in stages. Everything has its proper place. But this right here, if they look at the videos, they'll understand. Anybody that wants to come and take life's waters free, they can come and take life's water free. Understand, this is your inheritance, the flower of life. It's the inheritance of mankind, of everything. Come and participate. All I am is the gardener within and it's bounteous. I promise you.
Well, speaking of participate, one of my main questions I did not want to forget to ask you, of all the people laughing and not caring about what you're saying or pretending they don't care, that's what I would say, who's supporting you? Who's helping you? Like, is there any huge scientist or huge, public figure or anybody who has your back besides me?
The geometry. The geometry. A picture speaks 1,000 words. A picture speaks 1,000 words. What we're doing with the SQ energy amplifier, I don't need any more conversation. I don't need to explain anything, or I don't need anybody on my side when the truth is on your side.
No, I mean with your plans. Like, I mean, it's going to take money and plans to do all of this, or actual other scientists to really help. Because scientists are acting like they don't understand what you mean, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them do. So you don't really.
Help. We don't need anybody's help. We got it all covered.
I know that's right.
All those bases have been covered. This is the implementation.
So you say you don't need anyone's help, but if they want to, would you be willing to open up to any type of help, whether it's financial or anything? Or do you feel like you want to do this on your own?
No, I'm willing to open up and to share the truth that's been shared with me.
Okay.
I'm willing to, what someone does with the fruit from the flowers, what they do with it.
Right.
Everyone else is responsible for how they behave with it, But I'm just a gatekeeper. Everyone's welcome to come and take life's water free.
I like that, and I think that's the best part of it. I mean, as soon as I saw that your book was not for sale, I think that's really what got me. I'm like, okay, yeah. Because a lot of people say they have something to say, but then they're, selling it.
Yeah, one of the things I remembered about, like I said, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I remember the stories because for a long time I learned a lot about life. I often wondered why the Messiah or Jesus in the Christian story didn't turn the bread into stone just to feed himself. Mm-hmm. Why he really didn't. And then I'm thinking about it, it's like you're never supposed to take a gift that you were given freely and charge someone for that which you were given freely. Mm. That's abusive. You never turn bread into stone into bread to feed yourself. You can feed others with it, but never to feed yourself. And I've lived by that.
Wow.
And as a result, the universe saw kindly enough to allow me to uncover and open up the flower of life itself. The same thing, what's funny, the same people that are laughing now, if Da Vinci was around, if Copernicus was around, if Archimedes, if they were all gathered into a room with Newton and with Einstein and all of that, everyone would be quiet right now, raising their hand, asking questions about the geometry that they desperately were seeking to understand. The Lynchpin to the Pythagoreans believed that the dodecahedron was the most powerful and all-telling of all geometries. This is where 12 met 5. And so much so that it's been reported that if one of their members were to mention dodecahedron outside of their private meetings, that person should be killed on the spot. What they were really looking for was a contracted dodecahedron, which is the linchpin, which is the source of all things. It is the fractal. That's why when I made that $1 million thing on Andy Cohen, I had said I'll give $1 million to anybody who can build a better common factor of the universe than me, because it was a fixed price.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I'm sorry if I sound confident. I got the truth and God on my back.
Yeah, but that's why I said I was joking before. I said that was the first time you said I think, because you're very, very confident about this, and I think that's what makes me interested. And even after this, if people are watching and they're still confused, it's just your confidence and how specific you are when you're speaking. I'm like, he's got it figured out. And even after this, watching more and more interviews from you, more YouTube videos that you put out, it's just wanting to seek the knowledge is what's most important to me, at least. And you're talking to somebody who's obviously not a scientist, but I'm just fascinated. I think that's the best word.
But I'm not a scientist either. I'm just somebody who's curious about how everything works, and when I was a kid, I just wanted to know how did it all work, and it all comes down to two things interacting.
Yeah.
And the entire universe gets reduced down to what happens when 8 bubbles meet and what happens when 6 bubbles meet and how those interact with each other. Because each one of these have a pole, a vortex, a tornado spinning around it, unwinding. And each center also has, I keep losing my thing.
Yep, right there. That's good.
Each center also has its own vortices, whirlpool spinning around and collecting. And how they bump into each other like waves crashing, moving in opposite directions. That's how everything in the universe is just some stage of a wave crashing into another wave and resolving. And even though it's taken, in a second, we see a wave turn white and then it goes back to that navy blue. That's a second. Well, our entire universe has been just the result of 2 waves crashing into each other, and it's all that we see is this foam that's about to disappear, but this has been lasting for hundreds of trillions of years. I'll say this last thing, just because I know somebody's going to take offense to what I just said there. They say our universe is 13.7 billion years old. Well, our Earth moves away from the sun at 6 inches a year. The Earth has been moving away from the sun since the moment that it formed. That means every 10,560 years, the Earth moves 1 mile away from the sun. In order for the Earth to be 93 million miles away from the sun, that means the Earth would have moved 982 billion 80 million years. It would take 982 billion, 80 million years in order for the Earth to reach 93 million miles away from the sun. Well, that means that's linearly. If you just added 6 inches a year, but wait a minute, well, how then did the Earth, they say the Earth is only 4.6 billion years old. Well, that means that it would only have moved about 341,000 miles since its creation. Now, the Big Bang happening 13.7 billion years ago means that at the moment of the Big Bang, the Earth was 91 million miles away from the sun already, which doesn't explain Jupiter or Mars at 143 or 40-something million miles away from the sun. It would take 1,549 billion years for Mars to get to where it's at. It would take 5 trillion years linearly for Jupiter to be where it's at. And the furthest planet away from us, Neptune, you're talking 29 trillion years at a similar rate to 6 inches a year. And they say that our Earth the universe is 13.7 billion years old.
So throw all the science classes away, basically.
I'm saying just take a look and add it up yourself. And that's looking at it linearly. You got to remember, it unwinds like a corkscrew. That's 6 inches, so it could be even much larger. This is me just looking at it 6 inches. So you really could wind up the entire galaxy and wind up all of the galaxies and get to the true age of the universe. That's what this technology allows us to do.
So what is the true age of the universe?
Well,
from your science, the scientific discoveries.
Just looking, all I can say is that our Earth is at least 982 billion years old.
Wow.
That is at least 982 billion years old, and we have another 38 billion years before we move out of the Goldilocks zone and are at 98 million miles away from the sun, and where it become really cold and unable to recover from the cold. And each time we go further away, we'll be at a lower pressure condition, and everything will expand like, nitrogen coming out of the ocean. When you come up, you have to slow down because the nitrogen wants to expand and they want you to equalize before you come out of the water. Do you know what I'm talking about?
A little bit, slightly. I'm just trying to follow you.
It's called the bends. So likewise, as the Earth gets further away from the sun, it moves into a lower pressure condition, and therefore the nitrogen expands more.
Okay.
Ultimately to a point where it can no longer be held by the vortices that hold our Earth together. And so we become like the planet Mars, pushed further away from the sun, and at the same time, Venus is slowly moving into this place. And in 271 billion years, Venus is going to be right here at the Goldilocks zone, and all of this life will happen all over again.
Oh my goodness.
That's just how simple it all works. It's just the truth, and I'm sorry if it messes up a bunch of books. This is the truth, and this is the geometry behind the truth, and it can be tested. Any person that hears this can go and wind up our solar system.
Now, can I ask you this? Would you, I know you said you're retiring from acting, but everything that you're, letting me know now, and everything you're teaching, everything in your book, would you consider doing either a documentary or a movie, just because the average person may not still grasp it just from you discussing it, just from reading the book? Is there any type of other documentary type of project you would do for this? Just because I think some people may learn it a little bit differently if it's in film.
Well, like the scripture says, let him that has ears hear, let him that has eyes see.
Okay.
I've spent enough time communicating in that void. That is a true void with a lot of agendas, and I'll rather use the sunshine and the space that's provided, and those that need to hear will hear.
Yes.
And those that the flower calls, that the Father calls. They'll get the message and they'll move on it. That's just what I'm waiting for. I just like participating in showing that the way to the tree of life has been opened. Come take life's waters free and see where it leads you. Read the book. It's working.
I'm gonna read it all over again, but I'm gonna read it out loud so this guy, my husband, he can explain. I mean,
follow the prompts. You got to follow the prompts in it. That's each one leads and explains itself, because I know these are seemingly complicated things, but all I'm talking about is one thing spinning to the left and one thing spinning to the right, and it just happened repeatedly.
Yeah. I still need to read it again. I'm gonna just be honest. I need to read it again. Or even your at the very end, where you're not showing the platonic solids, throw all of that away. You have your own, and then you named them. I did notice, you named them after you named them. It's with your wife. Your wife's name was in there somewhere. I think I might have saw your son's name in there somewhere.
Yeah, my sons, my first two daughters. I mean, how do you think? Well, why shouldn't I name them after my children?
No, I'm here for it. Listen, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying I acknowledged it. I'm like, okay, wait. He's writing his own. Well, not your own, but you know what I mean. You're naming it on your own.
Yeah, well, it discovered me when I was by myself. So, and that's how the truth behaves with you. Nature is a very jealous God, and she only reveals her secrets when you are alone with her, and she reveals them in whispers. You have to be open. You've got to be listening. You've got to be looking for it. Your heart has to be churned just right. But once that truth hits you, that bell of purpose, like I mentioned in the book, that's my joy. That little boy that asked the question, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a square or triangle? That little boy got his answer. And when I asked God, how does everything work? The Creator was like, yes, this is how it works. And not only, I'm going to let you share it with everybody else. I'm going to give you this big platform as an actor. And I'm gonna make you a loudmouth on top of it.
Oh God, I hope that's what I'm saying. I hope I do it justice. I mean, I appreciate, and I'm looking at you. I just want to say this, like, just the joy on your face, and I'm sure you love acting. I mean, because you're phenomenal at it. But the joy on your face right now, that's everything for me, at least. Just as a fan.
Now you got me tearing up because I'm actually. The truth is, when you like you can't, everybody knows when you're in love. Everybody knows. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we know when it's true love, because then it bounces from one person to the other one out.
It's contagious.
It's contagious, and that's what the flower of life is. That's what the fruit from the flower of life is. It's contagious. Once you know the truth, once you look behind the curtain, to hell about going back to Kansas. I don't need to go back to Kansas anymore. I got me a tin man and a straw man as my buddies. And I've got a lion next to me. No, we're gonna make good with this. We don't need to take the blue pill. There's a lot we can do with the red pill,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you, and I should have shown more of the videos and all of that stuff.
Can I tell you something a little off topic?
Go ahead.
So my dad, he's a pastor, and he said he went to high school with you. John Adams High School?
Yeah, I went to John Adams.
Okay, because I did not believe him. I said, Dad, I cannot say this to him. He's going to say I'm a crazy woman.
No, because the fact that he mentioned John Adams, because they closed John Adams 2 years after I was there. I was there in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And then I went to Jane Addams.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So my dad said you went from John Adams to Jane Addams, which is the School of the Arts.
Yeah.
And I even wrote it down. He says that you guys grew up on 93rd Street between 116th and Union area in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, that's for real.
Yeah, he gave me a picture and everything. I wish I would have had it ready. I guess I can try to email it to you or something. But he has a picture of you at the lunch table and everything. And I'm like, Dad, that's not him, but I believe you.
105th Street, that was the main street that went east to west, went north to south. East and west was St. Clair, and that was. I'm glad you just put a little smile on my face.
Yeah, that'll make my dad happy. I'm telling you,
hello.
I will. I was, young, so I don't remember so much about Cleveland. But all I remember is getting those Polish boys from one of those spots over there. And he would always take me to get this huge hot dog. And I'm like, is that a Cleveland thing? I don't know.
Polish boy.
Yeah.
You just made my heart warm.
Well, I'm glad. Because you have a big smile on my face right now. So I'm just I'm happy. I'm happy we did this, and regardless of anybody's response, I'm happy to have had you.
I tell you this: I do not expect anything less than the best from humanity, and sometimes you get your best when humanity's at its worst, and they'll speak from their heart, and then once they speak from their heart, they'll consider what their heart has said and make adjustments, with their own heart talking to them slowly along the way. That's all we can hope for, is that we'll encourage each other and ourselves to a better place.
Right.
But the geometry is there. It's a blessing to have those two cherubs moving out of the way, and welcoming. I mean, we have to see that it's a welcoming. It's like, here, come. This is here. There's so much we can do now.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do. I really am.
Yeah.
Maybe once you reveal it, maybe you can come on back and talk to me again.
That's the fun day. But I'll tell it this way. On that day, we will predict all distribution of matter. All distribution of matter.
Really? How?
something very simple. We've talked about it already.
Don't you give me a riddle. Okay. I'm going to watch this back and I'm going to figure it out.
Yes, you should. Yeah.
Broad distribution of matter. My husband has a guess. Can we give him a guess quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on, babe. Come on in here. Come on in, babe.
All right.
Here he goes.
I'm like I'm listening to you guys talking. I'm bursting at the seams over here. I have like so many questions. But here's what I think it is. When you showed the model of the DNA in the tower, I noticed one thing. We went to the top angle, and it looked like there was a square there, but it was like a matter of perspective. It was kind of like an optical illusion. And then so when you put the DNA in, and it's kind of like a sifter inside the tower where it's rotating around the Lynchpin, but you have all that.
Come on, babe, you got it. Get it out.
You just said it. You just said the words just popped out of your mouth.
Yeah,
you said it.
Yeah. The all the matter is like kind of rotating around the Lynchpin, right? And then that's how the matter distributes itself, and then it interacts. It interacts with each other, kind of like when the scientists are like baffled. What happens to the particles when it gets on the other side of the double slit experiment? Then when we try to take a peek at like the symbols, oh my gosh.
Well, no, I'm with you. I don't want my phone to die.
Okay.
Oh my God, you got it.
I feel like I'm just mumbling now.
No, you were smart. You were dead on it from the start. You were dead on it. And your wife, in her first video, hold on, let me plug this up real quick. Sorry. Ooh, that was about to die.
I'm glad you caught it.
I caught it because I did about to go.
You said me in my first video?
Yes, and the video where you were defending, where you set up and defended me, you said, your husband, who's a really smart guy, said this guy may know what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. So when Chris reached out and talked about you, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to participate. I would love to go on and talk. And this is the first time I've actually gone and talked about it.
Oh, wow.
On any kind of platform. There's certain aspects of it I'm not going to talk about.
I understand.
That can easily be read about.
Oh, yeah, understandable.
But what my hopes for Haiti is really the hopes for the entire world.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there's there's so much that's available now.
I'm excited.
When I said the DNA, we can now control the DNA. So consider that. I'm sure your husband has an understanding of what I'm saying.
Oh, he's over here. He's over here. You couldn't see him. He's just over here like he does have one question. I know you said you don't need anybody and you've got it.
No. Well, the only reason is
he's like, what can I do to help?
Because the thing is that it's just like when I started reading the book and I started reading your material, and like a lot of the things that you were saying, like I've arrived on the shore of those concepts before, if you understand what I'm saying, and it's just like.
But it's easy enough to, like I explained, in taking the flower of life apart, piece by piece. And putting those pieces together according to relative universal ratios. Mm-hmm. Those numbers always repeat themselves. So any piece that you want to take from the flower, you can put together. Now they come in basic shapes and forms, but you see that in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had a pointer, which I don't have anything I can point with. But all of these shapes, me taking this full angle from here, oh my God, to here.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I'm up there. Basically, speaker is off. Can nobody hear me?
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I just can't hear you guys. Well, it's basically, I can't see myself well, but it's taking that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And putting that together 6 times.
Now I saw what you did with some of those pieces there. Like one thing that just pops into my mind is.
Hold on, I'm trying to see why my speaker went off.
Gotcha.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and I see some of the because I mean essentially geometric proofs, right?
Yeah.
Right, and I just think, what if you was to take some of those shapes and apply maybe like a graphene lattice to it, a graphene with all of its extra proproperties, and then you could. I'm churning right now.
No, you're actually speaking, the language we're talking about.
Yeah,
I told you. I said that's why I wasn't joking in my first video. I said,
let's just put it this way. Since I was a kid,
she'll let it out my giggles, but that just made me giggle like a kid, right?
Yeah, I just from since I was a kid, let's just put it this way. I've always been looking for correlation, and like things like this. So it's just like it's pretty.
That's why I said those who have ears will hear, and they will ask more questions. And as long as there's questions, then I'll have answers. If you ever reach a point where there's no more questions, then we'll bless each other and go on our merry way throughout the universes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're talking to a guy who took a computer apart at 6 years old and put it back together.
Yeah, I took apart my first one. I was like 9 because I wanted to see how it worked, and
he's that guy.
And I'm interested in physics, quantum physics, like all those. I'm not a scientist, but my thirst for curiosity.
And you realize that the rest of them that has all those titles, they're not scientists either. Because a scientist is a critical thinker, which you are. A scientist isn't an intellectual who just wants everybody to know what books he's read or she's read or what projects she's participated in or has sat on the chair of or how. Nobody really cares. I don't want to see an equation. Show me the geometry. Show me the geometry. Yeah, blow my mind. Blow my mind.
Well, you've already blown our minds.
I've always tried to do. Put two all shapes together and see nature. The evil eye, so-called, of Egypt. And see what the love from it, what the real space of that. And just how the universe really works together. I'm happy. I'm really, really happy to just say, come on, y'all, ringing the bell. Come on, let's eat. Let's eat. Because the universe never gives people anything unless it's something they're going to need. And if we didn't need this knowledge right now, we wouldn't have it. And most of the things we need, our lives depend on it. So please share. Come, just consider what's in the book.
Yeah.
And maybe become a race that the universe wants to preserve.
Yeah, and that's how I felt when Chris emailed me and it said, Terrence Howard request to be on. I'm like, this is coming to me for a reason, so I'll take it. Everything happens for a reason.
Amen. Well, have a blessed night, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Oh, most definitely.
And tell your wife I said thanks. I know that was a long conversation.
Yeah, this is good. And be as kind as you can. Don't have me looking crazy. But
No.
Crazy is as crazy does.
Right.
I've seen some crazy things, but my God, the geometry, they say it's same.
I don't see anything crazy about this. It's all interesting. Fascination is my word for tonight.
Well, DJ, will you send over that proposal?
Yeah.
Or at least the video to, at least some of the video to it, so she can be able to talk about it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
This is a Candid Candace exclusive.